So I thought I would introduce myself. I'm the Director of Information and Advice Services for Legal Aid, and essentially what I guess you need to understand is that Legal Aid is kind of set up like a bit of a government department in terms of things. Am I allowed to use this? Yeah. What we have is a whole bunch of divisions, and each division is responsible for a certain sort of transaction, if you will, for a client as they kind of move through the legal system, that sort of thing. And the first part of that journey is my responsibility. So I'm responsible for when people call into our call centre or they come into our front counter at Brisbane and they're looking for information, advice. We will then decide whether or not they need a referral or whether, for instance, we can provide a service to them. So that's information and advice, yeah? And then I also have responsibility for a group of lawyers, which we call our First Advice Contact Team, otherwise known as FACT. And I also have Prisoner Advice Service, which are our prisoner specialist services who provide advice to our prisoners across Queensland as well. So essentially, I'm responsible for when a client comes in on the phone in particular and into our front counter, all the way through to them either getting a referral or getting advice from Legal Aid. And can I tell you, that sounds really simple, but in terms of actually trying to figure out what people need and what their legal issue is, it's really, really complex. And what that means is we have a call centre full of people who are just amazing in terms of the things that they can do for you in terms of trying to figure out what the actual legal issue is and what's the most important pressing legal issue. So I wanted to introduce you to one of my team leaders from the call centre. This is Despina. Did I say it right? Despina. Despina's Greek. And she makes very good Greek sweets. And she's responsible for making sure that the quality of the call centre operators is at its highest level, and also just helping them, because it's not easy work taking calls from clients who are never happy, okay? So when people call Legal Aid, they're never happy. It's because they're in crisis, they've got an issue that needs to be sorted out and they don't know what to do, and we're going to help them do that. So in terms of filtering, we need to figure out essentially, we need to ask questions, find out some more information, then we need to figure out, right, do we do that service or does someone else do that service, because we're part of a big justice system. We don't want to cut across anyone's toes. We also know that we've got really limited bookings. There's high demand and low supply in terms of advice and those types of things. And so what we're trying to do is all the way along resolve things without the need for using legal advice slots, but then also getting people to legal advice if that's what they need. The next thing that happens is that people will move from the advice and then they'll move into Louise's section, which is grants. I probably didn't write big enough, but that's okay. And I'm a lawyer, so I write really badly, all right? So we move to grants, and that's when you have to fill out that horrendous legal aid application. But it's full of information that we need to be able to assess whether you can get representation, okay? So, and then from there, Louise then passes that on again to our legal divisions. So we've got family, and we've got crime, and we've got civil, yeah? So we've got a journey for a client, but it moves through each of the divisions. So when you're dealing with legal aid, you need to understand that you're going to move along, and that each person or each group has got a responsibility, and it might be slow and it might be cumbersome, but we have to make decisions along the way. We're responsible for public funds, all of those types of things. So in terms of today, I wanted to sort of talk about being prepared through the whole journey, what you need to do to be prepared. Because what I saw was all the way through my preparation was that I kept saying things like, be prepared. What do you need to bring to this? What do you need to bring to that? So essentially, I thought I'd work on that first. So what do you need to be prepared for when you call into our call centre? Okay. So the first thing you need to do is make sure that when you're calling in on behalf of a client, and you can do that, okay? Lots of people think they can't, but you can call in on behalf of a client. It would be preferable if you have the client with you so that we can talk to the client as well, but you can call and make a booking for a client, okay? We, although, have this issue, which is in relation to protection of confidential information. So the way that we've figured out that we can actually deal with you guys and get services to people is that we know that we can take information in, we just can't give it out, okay? So if you understand that, then you will understand that if you ring in and make an appointment, give us the client's name, their date of birth, their address. We might need to know their Centrelink details, those types of things. So we need a full gamut of information about that client, and also their legal problem. Then we'll be in a position to be able to filter that through, figure out whether they need a legal advice, and we can book a legal advice. Okay, so you guys can help clients with that. But we can't, you can't ring back later and go, oh, what time was that advice for that client, that sort of thing, because then we're going into the realm of sending information back out, okay? So we actually were able to make that change to our protocols as a result of one of these forums. We got the feedback that people couldn't make bookings on behalf of clients who had disabilities, and as a result we changed our protocols so that we could at least get that moving, yeah? So when you call, there's going to be a wait. Be prepared to wait. Our average call wait time is about 5 to 8 minutes, but in our peak times it can be really extraordinarily ridiculous. 40 minutes, 50 minutes, those types of things. And I promise you it will generally be on a Monday, so be prepared to call on a different day if you can, okay? Mondays are, sometimes you'll even hit an engaged signal. That's how much our demand has increased and spiked. We are trying our best to manage demand, but obviously we've got resources that are sent by the government, and we're limited as to what we can do. So what we try to do is target those high demand periods and put more staff on at that time. But what we're seeing is that from time to time we get what we call a gridlock in the system, and it's generally on a Monday morning, probably, Louise, because people are committing crimes on Saturday and Sunday, they've been in the watch house all night, they've had DV incidents, the police have executed warrants because they always like to do that at 5:30 on a Friday afternoon, you know, those types of things. So there's all that sort of stuff going on, which means Mondays are always yuck, essentially. So be prepared to let the client do the talking, okay? Whilst you guys, I accept that you will want to advocate for your client. The issue though is that we at every stage need to hear the story from the client if we can, if they're capable of doing that. And there's lots of reasons for that, but one of the problems, and we know, is that our clients are terrible historians, and if they've told a story here and they've told a story there and they've told a story here, then we kind of need to know that that's the type of person that we're dealing with, because we can give them advice about how they need to conduct themselves, and it might be that part of the advice is not to talk to people, okay? So don't be afraid that people are asking your clients lots of questions and it might sound like the Spanish Inquisition, but it's okay. That's where there is a reason for it. We're assessing credibility. We're assessing their vulnerability. We're assessing their ability to work through a legal system and understand a legal system. We're figuring out whether or not they would make a good witness or not. We're figuring out whether they would be suitable to work through, say, a really litigious matter, or whether, say, for instance, a conference might be a better scenario for them. So it's all, don't be afraid that lawyers and people in the call centre are asking lots of questions. There's a method to the madness, and it's all about getting that client ready and getting them to a place where it's more suitable for them in terms of how they're progressing their legal issue. What else do we need to do? If you can, collect all of the documents that the client has. QP9s are the things that police give out, and the client information officers in the call centre can tell you how to get QP9s. They're the facts around when people get charged. If there's family law documents, bring them all in. If it's a civil law matter, bring the contract in. We can't give advice on a contract without the contract. You know, all of those basic things. Get it all together. Save us some time. Be prepared for the law not to be nice, okay? Just because your client has a vulnerability or a disability doesn't mean that they're excused from the law, okay? So, for instance, just because they have a disability, it doesn't mean that they can get away with committing a crime. Just because they have a disability doesn't mean that, and they're a mother, doesn't mean that they will end up with children living in their care, okay? The law is not a nice thing, and it's not fair sometimes. And the lawyers and the CIOs are on the client's side. They understand the vulnerabilities and those types of things. But sometimes the law is not a nice thing, and it's really frustrating, and people get very upset. In particular, support workers get very upset because they see the injustice and the unfairness sometimes. But at the end of the day, the law is the law is the law, and the evidence is what the law is all about. So if you can help to collect evidence along the way, then please talk to the lawyers about that type of thing. It's really important. Okay, ask for things to be repeated for the client if you think they're not understanding. Take notes. Ask for a copy of the notes if you can, okay? If the sometimes lawyers make notes, like part of my legal advice is generally mean, you know, I'll write out a bit of homework for them or some things that I think are important, that sort of stuff, and I'll just make a copy of it and give it to them. Ask for a copy. Don't be afraid to ask for a copy. It's a document created during an advice. It's something that the client can have access to. If you don't get it at the time, you can access our administration policy. Is that what it's called? Admin access. You can apply to get it. It takes a while, but you can still get those types of things. Just bear in mind that when you get an advice with legal aid, that it's a 30-minute advice, okay? It's an initial advice, okay? Because we know that if you've got a legal issue and you need some representation, then you need to move down through this way. This is almost like a triage point where you get generalist information, you get generalist advice and a way forward, and generally some homework, okay? So bear in mind that the first solicitor that you talk to is not your solicitor. We get a lot of that from clients. I want to talk to my solicitor. Amber's my solicitor, you know, those types of things, but we're limited to 30 minutes. After that point, the clients will move on, yeah? Now, with disability and vulnerability, sometimes there is scope to extend the 30 minutes into a 60-minute advice, okay? But that is the solicitor's call, okay? So you need to be prepared for the fact that we'll start off with a 30-minute advice. We'll see what we can do in terms of getting and moving things along, and that at that point in time, we'll assess whether or not you need, for instance, to get the client back, because we know that the client's got a rapport now with that solicitor. The solicitor can see that. They'll make a call to actually get them back and give them advice, more advice themselves. That's really unusual in the general scheme of things, not in disability, but it's unusual generally in that we've got lawyers all over the state who give advice, and it's all about bookings and getting advice quickly and all of those types of things. But where we know a client's particularly vulnerable, we will make arrangements, or the solicitor will make arrangements for additional time to be given to that person. Where clients need interpreters, it's an automatic double booking, okay? So we know that they just take twice as much time. Legal Aid offers the use of interpreters. So if you call through the call centre, we can get an interpreter on the line to work through information and referrals. Sorry? We can get signed interpreters. It's first of all, what we work with on the phone is TTY. So, yeah, I have been told that. The participant just, what's your name?
Jennifer.
Hello, Jennifer. Jennifer just indicated that that was last century, TTY. I've only just been informed that that was last century, so I'll have to explore those particular options because I think we're text now, aren't we? And email.
Computer.
Yep.
National Relay Service.
Yep.
Through the computer, iPad.
Yep.
And texting.
Yep.
Interpreting through the computer.
Yep. Okay.
Skype and all that.
Oh my God.
So,
We only just got fancy smancy new screens, can I tell you? So we'll definitely put that on the list of things. And I think that I think our CEO would be really interested in that. So I'll definitely take that feedback back. But we do have TTY. And we also access our language interpreters over the phone, and we pay for those. So we can pay for those both at the time of the call when we need to give them information and make a booking, and then the solicitor can also ring the interpreter at the time of the advice service and go from there. We also have face-to-face bookings as well. So where a client is particularly vulnerable or can't communicate or those types of things, then we can also make arrangements for face-to-face bookings. But we understand that people can't get in, so sometimes it's that tension between remote and regional and ability to get in and communication and those types of things. So we offer that service. They're really limited, our face-to-face bookings, but as a general rule, they're priority bookings for our particularly vulnerable people or people who have documents which they walk in with their suitcase and then you open it and then you go, ah! You get a few of those, Fiona? Yeah? So, so just be prepared for all of those types of things. It's a step in a chain of working through a division and getting your representation. And sometimes you might not even move on, okay? It might be that the legal advice is enough, or that the legal advice ends with the solicitor helping to write a bit of a letter to someone, telling them, I don't know, to get stuffed, if that's what it happens to be. So it just depends, or it might be return my child. You need to, or I'll issue a recovery order. So it's those types of things. So it's little steps that those 30-minute sessions do, but they get you working through the chain. Now, just bear with me. Making that legal advice session really meaningful is something that is really important because it's 30 minutes. So before a legal advice session, if you know that the client's got a family law issue and it's about recovery of children, for instance, get on our website, have a look at it. It's full of information that's written by our lawyers who give the advice. Get yourself across all of that stuff. And then what it means is that you can probably educate the client a bit about that information and move it along so that it's something that's really specific to the client rather than us starting at the start and having to educate them about stuff that's on the website, okay? So explore the website. I know it's going to be beautiful. I promise you it's going to be beautiful. We've been spending so much time on this thing, but I know it's hard to get around at the moment, but just if you don't get the search word right the first time, you get no results, please try again on the old website, okay? Because it's not intuitive, that sort of thing. So if you just explore around, look for family and relationships, and if you need to track through, but look for information about the legal issue. Because if you're coming to get advice about it, generally we give representation in it, which means we've got stuff on our website about it, okay? So that makes them way more meaningful if you can move beyond the basic and get to actually the facts of your client's matter.